The stock market the last couple years has literally been straight up and to the right. Almost every option trader out there is a genius right now. But guess what? There's potentially going to be a 47% stock market crash in 2026 that we have to talk about. So I'm going to lay out to you my thesis of what I think is going to happen, when it's going to happen, and how option traders are not only going to be able to survive this crash, but how they can capitalize on this crash and come out better than what they actually went into it with. My account right now is $1.2 million. You can see in the last couple years, I made a lot of money, but I do expect there to be a lot of volatility in 2026. The first thing that we have to talk about, let's just go over to the chart and let's just see how much this market actually went up in the last couple years. Going from bottom to top right now on the NASDAQ, 140% in the last couple years. Anybody that recently came into the options world or anything in the stock market world right here, it just feels like, geez, the market's going to go up and to the right. Anytime that we get volatility, it's going to be a V-shaped recovery. But trust me, it's not always going to be that easy in the stock market. I know there's a lot of newly minted geniuses out there. So we have to talk about some stuff. So the first thing that we're going to talk about of what I am worried about with 2026, and then we'll go to the side right here and I will show you my 2026 price prediction for where the market's likely to go. First thing we have to talk about is the current market valuation. It is no surprise that, famous investors like Warren Buffett and many other famous billionaire investors have a lot of money in cash right now and they're buying bonds right now. Why is that? Why do they have so much money in cash? Because they can't find deals out there. They feel like there's no opportunities out there. So when the market's at a high valuation level, a lot of the AI hype is already priced into the market right now. They just see that the future expected returns for the market probably aren't going to be that good. So when and if the market crashes, they're going to take their cash off the sidelines, go allocate, go capitalize when people are freaking out. And that is why Warren Buffett is the Oracle of Omaha, worth over $200 billion right now. So looking at this chart right here, the red line corresponds to the S&P 500, just the share price of the S&P. The blue lines right here, these correspond to the price earnings ratio levels of the S&P 500. Let's think about this chart right here. We're going to talk about the crash of 1999, the crash of 2008, and what is potentially going on right now in 2026. Let's start off right here in 1999. First thing you have to notice is this. You can see that the S&P was trading close to this upper band right here, the blue band. This shows you that the S&P was at roughly 25 times forward earnings. That's a PE ratio of 25. And the reason why we care about the price earnings ratio level is because the higher that the PE ratio is, price earnings ratio level, the higher that is, the more expensive stocks are going to be. Like this water bottle right here. Essentially what a PE ratio of 25 means is that this water bottle, you're going to pay $25 for it. This is the business of water. 25 bucks you pay. But this water bottle only generates $1 per year in profit. So how long until you get your initial $25 investment back? 25 years. $1 profit per year. You bought it for 25 bucks, 25 years. Now, but take a look right here. Take a look at the bottom of the market in 2009. The price earnings ratio was around 10. So 10 bucks. You buy the water bottle for $10. It makes $1 per year in profit. You get your money back in 10 years. Which way is safer? Which way sounds more compelling? Getting your money back in 10 years or getting it back in 25 years? You could be the judge of that, but I'm going to say I want to get my money back faster, so it's more compelling to buy down here when things are on sale. Now, the next thing that we have to talk about, and I'm going to keep this very, very simple with you. This company right here of the Water Bottle Co., whatever we want to call it. If we want to buy this company outright, we want to know the price, obviously. But we want to know where the profits are at. Are the profits growing? Are they not growing? How fast is a profit going up? If the profits go up at the company, I'm then willing to pay more for that company because it's all tied to how many years until I get my initial investment back. So if we look at the market right here, down here in this dip in 2008, not only was the valuation, meaning the price earnings ratio level, low, it was definitely low. There's a lot of panic in the market. The S&P fell like over 50% right here. So a lot of panic, a lot of things are on sale right here. But on top of that, the actual profits of the companies were going up and to the right starting in this time frame right here. Yes, the profits did come down, but then they rebounded and started to go back up. So you have two airplane engines climbing the airplane through the sky right here. Profits are increasing and the market valuation is cheap, so the valuation can get more expensive from a P ratio of 10 to a P ratio of like 23-ish or 22 where we're at right now. So there's two engines on the airplane down here. But up here, how many engines were on the airplane in 1999-2000? Well, the valuations were clearly pretty dang high. Like this goes all the way back to 1985. It was never higher than this. It's obviously very expensive. So the engine of price earnings ratio going higher, we don't have that engine fired up right now. On top of that, what were the actual corporate profits doing in 1999? They were going up building into this entire dot-com bubble. The profits were definitely climbing, but the market, the stock price, was going up much faster than what the actual profits were going up. So that created a bubble, and that created a price earnings ratio level that started down here in, like, we'll say 1991. 1991, it went from 10 all the way up to 25. That is 2.5x. That is a huge price earnings ratio expansion right there. So then the market fell. EPS wasn't going up that well. The valuation was high. Market fell. So 2008, and then we're going to go to right here and how to do this with options and make sure that you don't get wiped out. We'll talk about keeping your ratios in check, all that good stuff. But we have to understand this stuff, or it's not really going to make sense right now. 2008. Could we agree that the valuation level in 2008 was not really that bad? We were trading at roughly 15 times forward earnings. This is forward earnings right here. That's a P ratio forward. 15 times is not bad at all if you ask me. But what did happen here? A very bad negative catalyst where the housing market pretty much completely blew up. The financial sector just blew up. It was very bad. And that caused massive ripples through the entire economy. So when that stuff happens in the economy that is horrible, the stock market's going to fall pretty much no matter what. And because we started at a PE ratio of roughly 15, the market fell 50%, which is still a lot. But if we started at like a PE ratio of 25-ish and that same scenario would have played out, the market very likely would have fell way more than 50%. I know it sounds crazy to think about right now, but it probably would have fell a lot more because the market went from overvalued to an extremely bad shock happened, and then the market fell way, way, way down from right there. And I don't ever want to say like, oh, this is a black swan event, this is never going to happen again, because there's always black swans that are always going to keep happening. 2008 happened, COVID happened, the dot-com crash happened, 9/11 happened. There's always going to be something in the future that's going to happen. So again, like if the market falls 47% in 2026, you always have to be prepared for that, especially with the valuation level up here where it is a little bit inflated. We have to be very careful right now. So where we're at in the market right now, I see us as having a plane flying at 40,000 feet with only one engine. The engine is earnings per share going up. If earnings per share keeps going up, I think the market's going to keep going up. But if we get any whiff of AI spending slowing down, AI data center build out slowing down, anything with the entire AI trade slowing down, the whole stock market feels like it's on Nvidia's back right now. If any of that slows down, the market is going to get a whiff of that and realize, hey, we have a lot of perfection priced into this market right now. And now we kind of have to recalibrate our expectations of like, hey, we might not get perfection like we think we're going to get. So the market is going to re-rate and correct lower on a price earnings ratio level basis. The market ratio down here, the P ratio down here was 10. We're at 22 right now. The market could easily fall 50% right now. I'm not saying we're going to have a big bad 2008 all over again in 2026, but I'm saying that's very possible, and we always have to be prepared for that. So how do we look at this with stock options? How do we always allocate our portfolios in a way so that we're going to do good no matter what? And we can take a look at my account. Let me hit the refresh button right here. You can see that there's definitely a lot of volatility through this time frame right here. But guess what? In the long term, when you buy good companies at good prices and you use options in a responsible way, not day trading, not wheeling, not cover calling, not cash secure putting, not buying one-day call options, none of that stuff. When you do this stuff the right way, you're going to be very level-headed when the market falls. You're going to capitalize on the dips. You're never going to be over-leveraged when the market's expensive, and you're always going to be able to sleep well at night. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go over to my Discord, go to the stock sheet, and I'm going to load this up. This is stock sheet version 2.0, by the way. I'm going to show you down here this thing called my assignment value. This might not make sense right now. Maybe I talked about this before and you're like, Brandon, I know. Let me explain this to you a little bit better than I've ever explained to you before. I want to keep this extremely simple. When I sell put options, I do a lot of selling portfolio secured puts. Basically, I'm securing my sold puts with my portfolio. So you saw right here, I have the $1.2 million account. I have no cash in this account. I have bonds which could equate to cash, but when I sell put options, like if you sell a strike price of $600 strike price put for one contract, technically you're going to have $60,000 in cash in your account sitting there doing nothing. I don't do it that way. Because if I'm bullish, I wouldn't want to have $60,000 in cash sitting there doing nothing. So what I do is this thing called portfolio secured puts, because cash secured puts are secured by cash. Portfolio secured puts are secured by my actual investments in my account. Now, here's the thing about it. People will say, well, Brandon, that's risky. If the market crashes, you're going to be in bad shape. Let me explain this to you so you really understand how I do call options, how I do put options, and how I always keep my ratios in check with stock options. Follow me on this. I base it on this thing called 7-day liquidity. Basically, what this means is this. If you were to hold a gun to my head and say, Brandon, you have to go bail someone out of jail, how much money can you come up with in 7 days right now? I would say I could get $2 million in green cash in front of my face in 7 days. Great. Mostly all of that money is invested in the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, or something with a similar beta, like a similar volatility scale. So if the market were to fall 50%, we'll say 47% for this example, but I'll just round it to 50 for easy numbers. If the market were to fall 50%, this $2 million account, it's going to then be worth $1 million. And all of the sold puts that I sold that are not cash secured, but are portfolio secured, I am on the hook to buy $425,000 worth of those companies. And keep in mind, these are companies with a moat, with pricing power, with a very strong, durable, competitive advantage. I'm okay to hold them for the long term, and they're at very good valuation levels to start. So you know what I do with my sold puts. I had plenty of videos on this. I sell longer duration portfolio secured puts. If I think it's cheap right now, I will sell puts. 2 years from right now, when I have a lower strike price and I collect all this premium and it gives 2 years for the earnings per share to go up and to the right, the company or ETF is likely to be way cheaper in the future. So it's more compelling. I'm happy to spend $425,000 right here to take assignment. So back to the example. If the market were to fall 50%, this will go from $2 million to $1 million. Okay. Who's to say that I can't take this $1 million base portfolio, which is what I call it, the base portfolio, which is largely invested in the S&P, individual companies too, NASDAQ, some bonds, there's various things in there, but it has a similar beta overall to the S&P, just volatility scale. Who's to say I can't take $425,000 out of the $1 million account after it fell 50%, sell those shares, that will go into cash in my account, and then I could take that cash and go take assignment of all of these sold puts that I have right here. Who's to say that I can't do that? I could generate the cash. My ratios are always well within check. You can see my current assignment value percent is 21% right now. That is just $425,000 divided by $2 million. It's 21%. So even if the market were to fall 80%, I'm still going to be pretty much ratios in check. Like the market's not going to fall 80%. And if it does, we're going to have bigger problems than that. And then also you can see down here, max acceptable assignment value right now is 40%. Max accepted value in a cheap market is 75%. Max AV in a lofty market is 0 to 50%. So you can see that the amount of, quote, risk that I'm willing to take on is dependent upon the overall thesis of the economy. Like I have a main scorecard right here where I break down all these different companies, go through all this good stuff. Economic scorecard, bull bear scale, IV sheet. Like there's all these things that I break down to really come to a true conclusion of where I think the overall economy is at, the macro, the micro, the AI thesis, all the corporate profits, valuations, interest rates, inflation, like a lot of stuff I break down. So based on the totality of that data, I come out to how much risk am I willing to take on, and also accounting for things like 2008, where black swans are always going to happen. I always want to be able to survive a 50% stock market crash. If you can't survive that, you're kind of crazy. Like you have to be able to survive a 50% stock market crash because eventually it's going to happen, and you're just kind of like a ticking time bomb in your portfolio if you can't. Everyone's a genius in a bull market the last couple years, and it's really dangerous to be like that. It's really dangerous to think like that because the market's not always going to go straight up like this. Also, with those portfolio secured puts, who's to say that I'm not just going to roll those contracts down and out? Like, I usually will roll my contracts down and out if I have to, and I've been doing this system for about 10 years now through bull markets, bear markets, COVIDs, 2022s and stuff like that. I've been outperforming the market since before COVID. My other recent videos, I show you inside Charles Schwab. I show you my compounding and growth rate since before COVID. I do truly beat the market in the long term, but it is a little bit of a bumpy ride. I'm going to say that, but I'm here for total return. I'm here for cash flow and appreciation. I want to make the most amount of money. That's what it's all about. Okay, so let's go into 2026 and let's come out to our price prediction. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to draw a vertical line on the end of 2026. We'll go all the way up to right here. Looks good. Let me adjust the scale on this chart a little bit so that we could see it. And we're going to figure out where we think the market is likely to go in 2026. I think there's going to be a lot of volatility. I think there's going to be a lot of things to capitalize on. There's a reason why my portfolio has not a lot of leap call options, not a lot of sold puts. I have some bonds in there. I'm allocated in a way to beat the market a little bit on the upside right now. But if the market goes down, I'm going to go down similar, maybe a little bit less than the market. So I'm always going to be fine on the downside, get a little bit more upside. But when we do truly get a deep dip, like this is where the money is made. When this market fell right here 35% in 2022, yes, my portfolio was going down a little bit in this time frame. Like it kind of went down similar to the market. I think the NASDAQ went down. We'll look at it. I think it went down 35%. My account went down, 36%. My account went down like 30% or 20, I think it was 28% in this time frame right here. Went down 28%. But then in this time frame, I was setting up my portfolio and allocating for the next bull market to come. I was buying good companies at good prices and simply being patient. And I knew that I didn't need instant gratification. I knew that if I was patient and sat on these trades for a little bit of time, I would likely do very, very well. Okay, so as we know from all of my other recent videos, we plot this line right here. This line corresponds to the earnings per share growth line of the NASDAQ in the last 5-ish years. I already did all the math on the back end. The percentage basis is already all figured out. It's all good. So here's what we're going to figure out right now. Where is the market at in relation to the actual earnings per share growth line? Because profits are what matters the most to move the market in the long term. You can see that right here, the market is roughly 10 to 11%-ish above the earnings per share growth line. Again, this line is not the end all be all. This line is very good and very useful, but it is not the end all be all. It just helps us get a gauge of, hey, the market's undervalued right here. Market's undervalued right here. Right here, it's a little bit expensive. Right here, it's a little bit expensive too. Notice the future expected returns here. Notice the future expected returns here are like pretty bumpy, but we just had a negative catalyst that brought the market down and it went down from a higher valuation level. Okay, so we take a look at what earnings per share is expected to grow at in a 1-year period. Plot this right here with me. All these numbers are already all figured out. We're at roughly 12%. We're kind of like moving into the beginning of the year already. So it's a little bit more than 12%, but 12% earnings per share growth for the NASDAQ is realistic to assume. Now, if we go from where the market's at right now until where the market would be at intrinsic value at the end of 2026, you could see that the market's going to do negative 0.32%. This is not a perfect science. The point that I'm getting at is the market's a little bit expensive right now. Don't be surprised if the market literally does nothing this year. But do the markets usually just trade sideways in an organized way? The market goes above the EPS line, below the EPS line, above, below, whatever. No, not at all. The market's never going to be organized like that. So let me zoom in a little bit here, and I'm going to draw for you what I think is going to happen. Now, there could be a combination of various catalysts that bring the market down. There could be China invading Taiwan. There could be that the Supreme Court rules that Trump's tariffs are good or they're not good. There could be midterm elections that go bad. There could be the Epstein files that get released. There could be valuation concerns. There could be AI concerns. There could be China doing tariffs on us. Like anything could happen. So the combination of some bad tariff, I think, is going to have the market do something like this. I'm going to draw this out for you in real time. This is where I expect the market to go for 2026. It's going to be like this, like this, like this, and then we're going to have a rebound that comes kind of like that. So total return in 2026, I think, is going to be a teeny bit red, a little bit red overall. But this peak to trough dip right here, how I drew it, is 20%. But if any bad catalyst gets intertwined and it actually stings on for a little bit longer, it's very possible that this market could literally fall 47%. The market right here, let me draw this line for you. The market right here on the left was roughly 37% below intrinsic value. Who's to say the market cannot go 37% below intrinsic value right here? That would indicate quite a fall for the market. So that's my 2026 price prediction. Anybody with options, I caution you to do this in a responsible way, in a reasonable way, because there's simply less deals and less opportunities out there. The way that I'm allocating my portfolio, I'm going to win on the upside. I'm going to win on the downside. I don't play games with the short duration stuff. I'm a long-term investor and use options to capitalize ultra high confidence plays. That is where the money's at, guys. Okay, so with that being said, hope you got value from this video. If you want to learn more about my system, check out the pinned comment or go watch this video right here, and I'll see you guys in the next one.